Hey, what's up you guys? It's your girl Dom back with another video. In this video, I'm showing you guys how I made the world's best southern candy yams, aka sweet potatoes. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into our ingredients. It's just me this year for the holiday season, so I'm making a small batch. I'm only using 2 yams, but it's gonna be good. Next, we're going on with our butter. I'm using the Country Crock Calcium Boost. Then we're going with our Kroger light brown sugar. We got our Crafts marshmallow puffs. And then we got our Caro light corn syrup. This is a must-have for your candy yams. Now we're going into our spices. We got our nutmeg. We have our pure vanilla extract. We have our ground cinnamon. And lastly, we have our iodized salt. This is not going to make the yam salty, it's just going to enhance the flavor. So starting off, you guys need to go ahead and boil your sweet potatoes. Don't cook them all the way through, you only want them to be slightly done, just enough to take the peel off. Now we're going to go ahead and start the base for our candy yams. I'm going in with some brown sugar and I'm just coating the bottom of my pan. I'm not one of those people who does like measurements and stuff. I know it's really annoying, but just go ahead and get your brown sugar, coat the bottom, and then you're going to go in with your ground cinnamon. And you're going to put a light layer. I'm not a huge cinnamon fan, so I'm very sparse on my cinnamon. But if you love cinnamon, go ahead and dump that bad boy on, okay? Make sure you're covering the entire pan though, right? Then we're going to go ahead and move on to our nutmeg. I'm using the same amount of nutmeg as I did with the cinnamon. I'm just making sure I'm coating all 4 corners of my pan. It really doesn't matter where you put it because it's all going to be melted together anyway, but yeah. Now we're going to go ahead with our iodized salt. I'm using a very, very light amount of salt as well. Again, this is not going to be salty. It's just going to enhance the flavor. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and move on to our pure vanilla extract. You want to be very light with this as well because the vanilla taste can be very, very overwhelming. So I only put like maybe a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half of my vanilla extract. I went ahead and got all that situated, and now I'm going to go ahead with my butter. I am taking 2 spoonfuls of my Country Crock butter. I'm going to melt that any way you like. Some people don't like to use a microwave. I do because it's faster. So I popped that bad boy in the microwave for about 30 seconds, got it all nice and melted, and then I poured it in to basically dissolve all of my brown sugar. And I'm going to go ahead with my spoon and I'm going to mix everything up together so everything is nicely melted and blended. Now that you have everything melted, you want to go ahead and mix to make sure you don't have any clumps of brown sugar. If anyone has ever worked with brown sugar, you know it is very sticky and it likes to stick to each other and form like little balls. We don't want that. We want everything to be nice and smooth. Now we're going to go ahead with our light corn syrup, and I'm only using, I don't know, maybe like half a cup, and I'm going in a zigzag motion. Because I only want a little bit just to give it some body. I don't want to overwhelm my yams. Typically, if I was making like 4 or 5 yams, I would. But since I'm only using 2, I don't need that much light corn syrup. Again, once you pour that in, mix everything well, blend it all together, and then you're going to pop it in the oven to make sure it stays warm. Following up with our yams, we're going to make sure that they're fork ready. Again, you don't want these to be all the way cooked. Only slightly. If you can stick a fork in them, they're good. Take them out and then run them under some cold water so you don't burn your hands when you peel them off. Now, some people like to use a potato peeler when they're taking off the skins of yams. I don't. I kind of just twist and pull. You see, it's that easy. Now that I have my yams fully peeled and there's no stems or anything like that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut my yams into slices. Some people like to do quarts or like this little funny triangle shapes. I don't like to do that. I like to do slices. I think they cook more evenly that way, and it just looks nicer when you put them all in the pan at the end. So when I'm cutting my yams, I'm cutting them in about maybe 1 inch thick. You can do a 1/2 inch. Remember, the thinner you cut your slices, the faster it'll cook. So I want mine to cook a little bit slower. So I'm making my slices 1 inch to 1.5 inches thick. Now that I have all of my yams nicely sliced, I'm going to go ahead and start to place them in the pan, and I'm going in simple rows just because it looks nicer to me that way. I don't want them all over the place, and I can easily coat my yams, you know, during the cooking process. So I'm doing 3 rows because that's how many can fit in this pan. But again, it's really up to you. If you want it to look all chaotic and crazy, you can do that. I'm a perfectionist, so I like everything to be aesthetically pleasing. Now that I have all of my yams nicely placed in my pan, I'm going to go ahead with a small spoon and I'm going to start to gather that base. And I'm going to coat my yams just so I can have a light layer of that yam base on there, because that's actually what's going to cook your yams. You don't want your yams to be dry or burnt, so the more liquid that, one, they're either submerged in, or two, you have on top of them, it will keep them nice and soft and it'll cook very well. You're going to have all of that flavor, all of that sweetness baked into those yams, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. So just make sure you're evenly coating all of your yams before you pop that bad boy in the oven. I'm going to show you what mine look like before I pop them in the oven, so stay tuned. So now that I have my yams nicely coated, I'm going to pop these bad boys in the oven for about 35 minutes on 350. Throughout the process, I will be taking them out of the oven to, you know, recoat them. Now that my liquid is nice and warm, it's a little bit easier to spread. I just want to make sure that my yams are nice and moist the entire time. About maybe 15 minutes before they're done, I'll go in and I'll pop some marshmallows in there. So this is a shot of my boyfriend. He's actually putting the marshmallows on there for me because I was doing something else. I believe we only put 9 or 10 marshmallows onto this pan just because I didn't want it to like overwhelm my yams, but typically I use a little smaller marshmallow clumps. But this chaotic holiday season has been crazy. Like, I have to work with whatever I can find, and I only found the jumbo marshmallows, but that's fine. I placed them in all corners of the pan because I don't want them all up on each other, but you know, they look pretty nice how they are. Once you put your marshmallows on top of your yams, you're actually going to change your oven setting to broil. And I put mine on high because I want my top of my marshmallow to be a little bit scorched. Like, you see how that looked? Oh, it's just so pretty. After I scorched my marshmallows, I didn't burn them, just scorched them a little bit. I actually went ahead and started to mix everything together, and this is the final product. I freaking love my yams. Like, they came out so bomb and they taste so delicious. I'm gonna be doing this every year. I do have some other videos on the way. I got best greens and the world's best mac and cheese for the holiday season. Go ahead and check those out, and I will see you guys in my next video.